Hello everyone and welcome to this week's video. I will be discussing stage 3 of the design stages. We are halfway through the design stages and we're getting closer and closer to seeing the final product. If you're new to my channel, please like and subscribe, and I will definitely recommend that you watch my previous videos on stage 1 and 2 so that you can keep ahead with the rest of us. And if you're back and a loyal subscriber, nice to see you guys again, and I'm sure you'll enjoy this video. So let's get into this week's video. Stage 3 is design development, and personally for me, I think that this is one of the most important stages in the whole of the design, simply because this is basically where you compile a huge document, almost like a thesis of what the design will look like, all the details, every single layout, everything has basically been thought out in stage 3. So it's quite a big chunk of all the work that we do, and it's a document that we share obviously with the clients and get signed off, which is very, very important. So let's have a look at what stage 3 entails. If you remember, stage 2, we had already space planned. We might have proposed a few materials, not have defined what these materials were exactly. And we had started to conceptualize some design elements and really looked deeper into the design. So when we talk about stage 3, there are 4 key elements that we look at. The first being the scope and complexity. Typically in the design development stage, a lot of things become apparent with what you had originally conceptualized in stage 2. Basically deals with the scope of the design that you proposed in stage 2 and how complex it is. So if we have conceptualized something that requires a specialist to develop this design, and that means that there's a lot of time that needs to go into it because there's a lot of researching, or we have to get materials that you can't find locally, so there's a lead time to that. All of those things need to be factored in, and we are very transparent with the client and we let them know so that they are in the loop and they can also adjust their budget accordingly, or then we can that idea if maybe that's just crazy over budget and the client doesn't want to spend too much money. So confirming the scope and complexity is very important with the client. Develop basically deals with developing the design and developing your materials. We will now go into greater depth and actually choose the actual tile and the actual timber floor. When it comes to developing the design, this would also include developing the details. Services. As I mentioned, there are various scales of renovations. And because I'm using my bedroom as a case study, it was a minor renovation, so we didn't require any services. But typically this is the time where we would have engaged with the various consultants, and in stage 3 is where we implement these services. So for instance, if we are renovating a home, or even if it's a new build, sometimes our clients want ducted AC. So typically we would use a mechanical engineer, and we would sit with the mechanical engineer and he would come up with all the routes for the ducting in the ceiling void. And we would have to come up with a ceiling that would accommodate all these services and make sure that it fits within our ceiling heights and it doesn't clash with anything that potentially we wanted to highlight. So for instance, if we didn't want a ceiling in a specific space in the house, we would have to work hand in hand with the mechanical engineer to figure out a way in order to ensure that we get the desired ceiling that we want. Review. So reviewing is the part where I do not like reviewing, to be honest, because that's like when all your dreams are shattered sometimes. So reviewing is when we bring the design against the budget and time. So as everyone knows, time means money, and the longer you spend on site, the longer you have to pay your contractors and your subcontractors, and that's just a lot of money. So when we're reviewing budget and time, we're reviewing like, are the materials that we have proposed crazy expensive? The design that we're proposing in terms of the time that it takes to achieve it, is it worth really doing this? Well, not is it worth it, because I think everything's worth it, but for your client, is it worth your client's spend or their budget that they wanted to spend their money on? And basically it's just a way to make sure that the client's happy and comfortable with the budget, and reviewing our design in a way that we can still achieve what we initially were aiming for, but seeing ways that we can achieve it in a more cost-effective manner. So those are the major 4 elements that we look at in design development. And as I've mentioned, it is such an important stage in design. It takes weeks to do. It's basically a huge fat document which has every single element that you have designed in there. So from your bathroom layouts to the actual sanitary ware fittings that you're choosing for your bathrooms and in your kitchens, to the materials, your ceiling and lighting layouts, your electrical layouts, your joinery, so all your kitchen cupboards and all your built-in cupboards, your TV, like everything. It's an extremely important stage to go through with your client, and we sit hand in hand with the client. There's a lot of back and forth, and it's so important. I've learned throughout the years how important it is to get sign off from the client. Of course, things can change. I mean, this is still not set in stone, but design development, it's so important to get the design nailed down. I would say even like 90%, because once you go to site, it can be so stressful to go almost backwards to implement things. So for instance, electrical is a big one because that requires chasing into brickwork or into the concrete slab. And if you haven't tied down the electrical layout before you go onto site, and let's say they've put down the floors, they've already tiled, let's say it's a bathroom, so you want to put a shaver point now in your cabinet, and we on site and it's like 2 months down the line or 3 months down the line, they've already waterproofed the bathroom, they've already put the tiles down in the bathroom, and they've already put the tiles on the walls. And because you haven't ironed out those details yet, and the client decides later, or you decide later as the designer that you want to put a shaver point, the cost to rip up all those tiles and the wall tiles to get that one electrical point really doesn't become worth it. And it ends up being a time delay and a cost delay. So it's so important to get all those little details nailed down before you go to site. And it's also so important, like triple NBE if you're a designer or if you're a student, like remember this before you go into the working world, to get signed off from clients. So the design development stage for me is literally almost like a legal document that like kind of binds the client into this agreement that, you know, we have spoken about everything and you have signed off that you're happy with every single point that you see in your house, that you see on this plan. And there is obviously flexibility, but at least it's an agreement that everyone knows that has been signed off. And so that like 2 months down the line or a year down the line, because sites can take some time depending on how big your project is, that no one has kind of like, I love to call it pretend amnesia, and they've forgotten what they have agreed to. And that can just be very awkward and unnecessary. So having this document kind of will save your butt as well as the client. It's just something that you can go back to and refer to, because it's hard to remember everything that changes in a design project. So yeah, I will not stress this enough, or I will stress it too much, but design development is so important. Okay, because I was the client in this project, obviously, I mean, there wasn't much going back and forth going on because I already knew what I wanted. I won't be going into too much detail of the stages I took. As I mentioned in my stage 2 video, I had used a different software to prepare my drawings for my bedroom. This is Sketchup. And as you can see, I've already started looking at various elements in greater detail. So for instance, if you look at my built-in cupboards, I have already demarcated what are tall cupboards and the drawers, and I've added some material. I thought that built-in cupboard would look beautiful in a bronze mirror. I've also gone into more depth on my headboard. I've added some soft upholstery, created that ledge that you saw in the previous stage 2. The wall cladding I've also included with the door, and I implemented the grooves that I mentioned in stage 2 that I really liked. I just thought it would add a nice little detail. As you can see, I've gone quite
I wouldn't say overboard, but I've started already to kind of style it a little bit. Still very into pink, so my wall cladding is pink. I've even included things like blinds and where I'd have curtains. It just helps when ordering things. So for instance, if you want to have motorized blinds, it's really great to know now at this stage so that we could put a point but for your motorized blinds. Okay, now I'm baffling. What else? This is basically a quick SketchUp of what my dream room would look like and what I wanted to achieve. Please, the things from SketchUp aren't the greatest. As you can see, I'm so embarrassed. I actually put those mirror pedestals, but oh my word. That was very, very long ago, okay? And there are very few models that you can find online for SketchUp, so ignore that.
I'm just going to quickly show you a typical bathroom layout and actually how much detail really goes into it and like all the layers that go into getting a complete designed bathroom. So this first image is just of the bathroom, quite plain. I have already put in the glass door, which I didn't have previously, and have started to look at a few key elements. Next thing I'll do is obviously dimension, key dimensions that the plumber would need, and also specify key heights. I'll also include a lot of notes just so that the various parties know where to look at for specific drawings. For instance, like the vanity, because that's a custom made vanity, I'll have a note that says refer to this drawing. The second layer would be looking at like your tiling layout. I'm mentioning that. So we literally set out each tile, like where that tile goes so that it looks beautiful in the space. The key things that we usually look at is lining up like our grout lines with specific joinery items or specific sanitary ware items. So for instance, I've lined up one of my grout lines with my toilet and another grout line with my mirror and vanity. I know this sounds really weird, but when you go into space, you might not realize that you're picking up these things, but there's some spaces where you just feel like something's off and you might not know what it is, but you can just feel it. So again, this is why it's so important to have interior designers, because we will really look at the smaller, finer details to make sure that the space really feels right. And then the next layer, I know this drawing looks crazy now, is adding all the little tags for our details. So this is just basically me showing you the different layers that we apply. They're not in any particular order. It's just the way I did the drawing for you guys to see. But I think it's really important and it's really good for you guys to see the level of detailing that goes into it. And it's just, I think, a great time for me to reiterate the importance of an interior designer. And of course, I mean, if you don't want something too, not crazy, or if you don't want something too bespoke, or you're okay with kind of standard details, then getting a builder, he can come up with your most standard details. However, designers will really focus and look at what really will amplify a space, what will make it look beautiful, what's the best way of concealing certain things. Just really, we are so concerned with the aesthetics that we really come up with amazing details. And it's also really important to choose the right builder to get these details for us. So we wouldn't just ordinarily just select a builder that we're not familiar with. We also really encourage that our clients go visit the builder or the contractor's previous work so that everyone's happy with the quality that you're going to get. And I'm waffling about that. So yeah, it's just really important to get a designer if you really need one. If you don't, then don't get one. Like, you want to spend your money wisely. So that's just the plan of the bathroom layout. These are the elevations that we do as well. So that also gets the same level of detailing. Detail, like I've mentioned before, every single corner, every single junction to make sure everything is aesthetically pleasing. Not gonna run through every single note on here or run through the details because I don't know if that will really interest anyone right now. I don't know if people are interested in detailing. Let me know in the comment sections below. But if you are interested in getting to know a bit of detailing or detail design, let me know, and maybe I'll do like one quick session on a few very key or very easy details that you could implement in your space. But obviously hire me because I can make sure that these things get done. And that's a wrap for stage 3 of the design processes. If you guys want me to go into more depth on the detailing, let me know in my comment section. I just don't want to bore people to death, and it's so hard because I find it interesting. I don't know if you guys will find it interesting, but anyways, just let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed my little and brief explanation on stage 3. Please, can you guys remember to ask me any questions that you would like for me to answer in my Q&A, which will be coming up soon. I just want to generate enough questions to actually have one, or if people are too shy to ask me anything, I will come up with some questions that I'm typically asked and I'll just answer those. Please, if you can, just ask me in any of my videos, just drop it down in my comment section. And before I forget, do not forget to like and subscribe and turn on your notifications, and I'll see you next week. Bye.